Principal Dr. Patil sir, all the participants of this seminar. First of all, I express my sincere gratitude to the organizing institution for giving me this opportunity to talk on an important issue today called Teaching Learning Evaluation Criterion 2 as per the NAAC guidelines. Friends, I designed my presentation with a caption here. Probably you might have noticed right in the beginning on your screen, called Understanding Revised NAAC Assessment and Accreditation Framework. If you really and practically look at the kind of framework which has been designed by the NAAC authorities, you will realize that the NAAC authorities have been very practical and pragmatic in this respect. Because the major component that you find in this framework is nothing but to tap the qualitative and quantitative measures of each and every institution. And of course, being in the field of academics, working in the arena of academics, we are expected to maintain the standard and the quality of education and should pass on the same to the upcoming generations, those who are sitting in front of us as the students or the learners. And here my topic starts. Mainly my presentation will focus on the criterion 2, no doubt about it. Each and every small and big section I will discuss in detail, so that once you start working on this criteria, you will have a very comprehensive understanding of criterion 2. But beforehand, I would like to talk on the vision of NAAC, because the other day when all the respected teachers happened to visit my office and there was a doubt raised by an individual that why NAAC, or else Patil sir also told me once that why it is imposed to the private institutions like us. Actually, it is not the question that whether you are a private institution or autonomous institution or a government aided institution or directly run by the government kind of institution. The question is whether we are maintaining the expected standard in the field of education. And if you look at these highlighted 5 points that I mentioned here on the screen, you will realize that the accreditation framework of NAAC is based on these 5 values, which can be called the basic 5 values of the entire existence of NAAC in our country. And as I said, why do we need to go through this process? These points will answer you this question. Because contributing to the national development is directly or indirectly the commitment of every educational institution. Whether it is working in the rustic areas, semi-urban areas, urban areas, or it may be working in the metropolitan cities. Similarly, we are expected to foster the global competencies among our students. Sorry. Already I said, like, whether we are working in the small college or a big college, that is not the point. The point is whether we are making the competent students once they learn some subject under our guidance. I hope you know the foremost objective of education is nothing but to attain the first rate knowledge of the opted subject. And when you correlate these things to each and every educational institution, you will realize that providing the first rate knowledge to the learners means upgrading their standard day by day and making them competent by all means, and we should also put in the very sincere efforts in order to provide the global standard requirements. Because the kind of standard that we maintain at Udgir or at Latur or at any metropolitan city in our country, if you try to compare with the American universities, probably we are lagging in several areas. And that is the reason that if you see the top 500 universities in the world, how many universities are there from our country? If you see the top 100 universities in the world, there is not a single institute from our country. So I think this is the alarming stage for the entire country, that until and unless you improvise the global competencies among your students, you will not be able to really refine your image at the international front. And the third value that you find is inculcating a value system among the students. You know, one thing I would like to say, and that is the fact everybody will agree, whether it is the technical courses, non-technical courses, or medical or paramedical courses, probably you might have noticed the kind of attitude that the generation is going to take up now. When we happen to teach in the class, and the kind of attitude that they are maintaining in their behavioral pattern, I think this situation has already come to the alarming stage. So here we need to inculcate some of the values among the students, and that is the responsibility of each and every institution where the learner is taking certain course or completing certain program. So here it is also expected by the NAAC that it is the role of the institution that it should play to create and inculcate the values, some of the values of our own country. Whether they are the professional values or cultural values or national values, whatever you call. But we are supposed to create these values among the learners so that they will be able to come up to the expected standard. Then you have the, a point called fourth one, promoting the use of technology. Now you see, in the technological point of view, what I feel like the upcoming generation or the next generation is always much better than the previous generation. If you compare your own competence of technology with the competence of the upcoming learner, they are far, far better than us. And that is the hard truth. We need to accept it without any grievance. So we need to also make them competent as far as technological requirements are concerned. It's not like using the smartphone or the laptop or computer. But when it is required for your own arena of study, you should be able to use technology very competently for that purpose also. And finally, it is expected by the NAAC, since it is one of the visions of the NAAC, that we should have the quest for excellence. Now the question is, unless I have excellence, how can I create excellence among my students? And question actually lies here. Probably you are familiar with the Guru-Shishya kind of tradition, Guru-disciple tradition. Not only in India, all over the world you will find that kind of tradition. You have Plato, Aristotle, then followed by Alexander the Great kind of tradition there. See, the competencies of all these three people, everybody is trying to overpass the previous one. And they are trying to prove what competence and mettle that they have. Similarly, we too have here, you have the Chanakya's disciple Chandragupta Maurya, who has expanded his boundaries of the empire to such an extensive level that no one can even imagine when Chanakya was being suffered by the contemporaries. Now, that is not the question what exactly I am talking about. But here my point is whether we are competent. Now, all of us are the teachers sailing in the same boat. We need to ask the question that what is my competence level? Do I really give justice to my students once I stand in the class, dealing with a topic, dealing with a subject? Do I have the adequate knowledge of the area that I am really dealing with? When I happen to present myself in the class, am I really justifying by all means? Then unless the teacher is really competent, how can you imagine that the competencies of the students can be upgraded? So I don't ever blame the learners that if at all they are having shortcomings anywhere. The blame will naturally go to the teachers' fraternity that we are belonging to. So here you have the topic that you are going to discuss for another 1.5 or 2 hours or so, whatever. And the title, as I said right in the beginning, is Criterion 2, Teaching, Learning and Evaluation. But my friends, I would like to clarify, can you dissociate teaching from learning and vice versa? Can you separate teaching and then learning? Can we? See, there can be a learner without a teacher, but there cannot be a teacher in the absence of a learner. So here we need to accept one thing, that the teaching, learning, it should always be treated as one. You cannot imagine teaching in the absence of learning, because unless this reciprocal action happens at a time, then only the teaching learning process will have a certain meaning. It will be a meaningful activity. Anyway, you can separate evaluation, because based on the teaching learning process, the evaluation will start later. First of all, let that teaching should happen. Let that learning should happen. Then only you can, evaluate your learner and their competencies. So the criteria that we are going to talk about has these key indicators. Only 7 indicators are there. Collectively altogether, for your, what do you call it, the program, as you are providing education for BAMS only, right? BAMS. So you have certain credits over there for each and every indicator. If you talk about 2.1, you have student enrollment and profile. Dedicatedly, you have 20 marks for that. And if you put in right efforts in the right direction, as I will suggest you later what to do and how to do, you will find that not a single mark can be deducted by the assessors. Means it's a sure shot kind of deal. If you really address that one properly, that is student enrollment and profile, you can secure out of marks as allocated for that. Then you have catering to the student diversity. You have 25 marks. Teaching learning process, already we are into it. But the question is how far it is meeting to the expected standards. So that way we need to think of and cross verify. Where do we stand and what kind of standard is expected by the NAAC? So here you have 45 marks for that. And then teacher profile and quality. See, this word quality makes a big sense, right? Of course, all of us are qualified, but how many of us are competent? Sorry to say, I'm not questioning about your ability. I'm not also questioning my ability. When I'm making some statements, it means they are in general applicable to the teachers' fraternity, right? So here the question of the teacher's profile, okay, nobody will question about your profile, but the question will definitely be raised by the assessors about the quality. Quality in the sense, your quality as an individual while presenting your topic, your quality as a teacher while doing your research, and what kind of qualitative measurement that you have taken up in the course of your experience of teaching in your institution. So all these things will be evaluated, no doubt about it, and you have 50 marks for that. Please make a note. Everywhere I have pointed out what is the allocation of marks. Okay. Then you have evaluation process and reforms. See, evaluation process, since we are the affiliated university, we have our own bindings and we don't have any, anything new to be done, because we are bound by the rules and regulations imposed by the affiliating university. But whatever it may be, okay, beyond that, if at all we could do sort of reforms in our own institution as far as conducting evaluation system at the internal assessment level. So that is our domain, irrespective of the instructions made by the universities. So many things we can do, so many experiments we can do, so many reforms we can introduce, and definitely we can do a marvelous job in this respect also. Followed by the student performance and learning outcome. Just before some time, I think I was discussing with sir, okay, and sir also there in the cabin, that you cannot dissociate criteria 2 and the one more criteria related to student progression. They are well gelled together. As you cannot imagine the teaching in the absence of learning and vice versa, same way when you talk about student preparation, or else students contribution and performance will come up only when you perform well in the class, when they perform well in the examination, and then the outcome will be there. So these things will be correlated, and of course it is the interconnected kind of thing that you find. And finally, you have the student satisfaction survey. Mind it well, you might have done extraordinary in all these things. And if you fail to do in the last one, every effort that you put in goes in vain. It's a waste of time. So please don't take it casually as far as 2.7 is concerned. Especially the main role will be played by the coordinator. Of course, all are there, to help you out. But the point is, unless you have the proper expected data to be uploaded to the NAC office or NAC portal, they will not be able to conduct this student satisfaction survey at their level. What do you do at your level is different. Maybe to your own satisfaction, that yes, so many things I have done for my institution. I conducted this sort of survey. I have the feedback for each and every teacher. I have the feedback for even the principal and the management. I have the feedback for every terminal here. No issue. Everybody will appreciate. But the point is, whether your student satisfaction survey that will be initiated by NAC directly based on the student data that you provide, and unless the expected number of responses are collected by them digitally, they will not be convinced with your own approach of saying like these are the things that we have done. It goes in vain. So please don't take it easy as far as your student satisfaction survey is concerned. No, it's okay. I finished. Now you see here, it's a slide that gives you a comprehensive, clear picture of your criteria. Those who are looking into this, but each and every faculty is expected to be very serious as far as teaching, learning and evaluation process is concerned. So just have a glance here quickly. There is a division between the qualitative metrics and quantitative metrics. Now you see here, I'm not going to waste much of time over here. It's a statistical data which is provided, and don't bother much what is qualitative and what is qualitative. Once you understand what exactly you are going to do with your criteria 2, and one after the other you address every query, every expected data documentation, data template, so on and so on, you need not bother about it much, because this is just a kind of system. And once you start providing all details there, you will realize that the things will move on to the right direction. Now you see here I begin with the very first one. Already I said 7 indicators are there. Total marks are allocated and each and every section has already been provided with some marks. And now I am going in detail with each and every point within each of the sections provided. So 7 sections are there, 2.1 to 2.7, and within that you have subsections also. Now I will try to provide you what exactly you are expected to do, number 1. And once the template is provided, my every next slide will provide you the template for the respective point and what exactly you are supposed to do as far as online template information provision is concerned. So now you see here, okay, here you are providing the quantitative information to some extent right in the beginning. And if you see this is student enrollment and profile. Already I told you can score out of marks in this one, but only when you meet to the expected level as it is expected by the NAAC authorities. So if you are very particular about it, it's a general information. We get admissions, whatever quota, whatever seats allocated by the government and your private management quota seats, all seats are there. What is the intake capacity per year?
60.
Only 60, right? And what is the management quota? 30%. 15% only, fine. So 9 students goes to management quota, whereas you have 51 coming from the convener quota, that is CET, right? So here you have a very clear statistics. So altogether for 4 years, 6 4s are, right? So that is the total number that you get, but your intake is only 60. So once you start providing your student profile, you will realize that you have the categorization of each and every student strictly followed as per the government norms. Am I clear? I don't know how far you get flexibility in the management quota seat, but there also they have the merit list minimum, if not the categorization of caste, creed, religion and so on, but at least merit is to be followed over there also. So here if you see now, once you try to provide the data, what are the documents that you are expected to upload? Please make a point here. This information will be anyway quantitative, like how many number of seats are filled this year. You will write 60 because 101% you will get 51 from the convener quota, 101% you will fill 9 from your management quota. So your allocated quota is already fulfilled. So you are securing full marks because your demand ratio is already full. You can always say my seats are 60 and my demand is 60. It means it is 1:1, 100% requirement is there, and as you are providing the services too. But here, what are the things that you are supposed to support to your stand while talking about your student enrollment data? See here, certain uploads I have mentioned with a color here. Number 1, the copy of letter issued by state government or central government or as applicable. Like we come under state government, right? Even though it is a self-financing private institution, but it comes under state government. And state government has already provided you certain, rules and regulations to be strictly followed. And if at all it is already coming under the CET allocation, that is convener quota allocation. So there is no question that you worry much about, because they have each and every statistics with them, right? And accordingly only they allocate the number of seats to your college. Your role is just to accept. Once the convener quota allotment is there, you have to simply admit them in your college physically, nothing beyond that. So this you can upload there. Number 2, final admission list published by the higher education institution. Because once you complete the entire process of admission, finally what do? You publish a list outside on the board. So these are the 60 students admitted in our college, properly duly certified by the head of the institution. Second or third, you can say admission extract submitted to the state. What kind of data that you are providing there? What is the allocation for OBC? You have stipulated number there, right? SC, ST, or minority, if at all any other categories are there. I think new categories introduced called financially weaker people, Okay, so yeah, EWS. So you need to find out like whatever modulations are there as guided by the government, they have to be very clearly indicated. You have to mention what is the total number allocated and you have to mention what is the total number admitted. So this should be properly matching, and if at all you are doing strictly as per the government rules, nobody will object this data. 5 marks are allocated for this, you will get 5 out of 5. So likewise you need to do once you start doing your business for this kind of data updation. Similarly, you have, if at all you have any annual reports or admission reports or anything that should be duly certified. But what I feel, whatever I said right in the beginning, right? Approval copy of your intake you have, that is to be duly certified, and I think that comes only once you get the college allotted by the government, and once you are under the government scanner, so you get one letter. What is your intake? Maximum 60. If at all you get any extension, next letter will come. So the same letter will be attached over here again and again whenever demanded. So these are the things as far as this quantitative data is concerned. Now you just look at, sorry. See here, the average percentage of seats filled in for the various programs against the approval intake or approved intake. So you need not worry about, you have only one document. What is your approved intake? 60. Accordingly, you will provide the data. You have only one program, that is BAMS. So you have to write down the full name of the BAMS called program name. If at all university has provided any code for that, that code can be written. But generally what I feel like, you have the BAMS as a code and BAMS full form will be the program name. That kind of thing will happen in this respect. Then your number of seats sanctioned, 60. Number of eligible applicants received. There is no question of mentioning the number of applications here. What you can do is you can make division. Like 51 convener quota, 9 private quota, means management quota. So for management quota, you may get multiple number of applications. You may admit 9 only, because your allocation is 60. Government quota, there are thousands of applicants for that, but only the eligible based on the ranks they secure the seat. So we cannot just compare and contrast with that kind of thing. What is the demand ratio of my college? And you don't get that kind of data also. Like how many of the students have opted for your college in particular in order to secure admission. So that data is highly impossible. So ultimately what can you do is, you can simply distinguish yourself in your own ways. Like we have got 9 management quota seats and 30 applications every year we are receiving. So that will also reveal that your college is in demand. Because if at all that ratio is considerably higher, it means your potential, your college, your institution is performing well and there is a very good demand for your college. So that kind of thing can be done here. Otherwise, it will go like this: 60 sanctioned quota and approved and allocated students are 60. Admitted students are 60. So it seems like 1:1. It seems like 1:1. But that way you can to some extent do, and you can provide in additional information. Because this data is not expected by the NAC to be divided into management quota, private quota, this, that, right? So simply you can do it in the additional information you can provide. So far our college is concerned, we have this sort of system over here, so that you will get extra weightage for that. Means you will be able to convince them that our college is in demand. So that sort of thing can be done. And finally you have the students finally admitted to your program. So again you have certain uploads there, institutional data in prescribed format. Number 1, prescribed in the sense, again, serial number, name of the student, category. Category means SC, ST, DNT, OBC, blah, blah, blah. Likewise, you can provide, and then the format will be finalized there. Then you have document relating to sanction of intake. Already I told about it. Only one document you have received right in the beginning of the establishment of your institute, like 60 intake approved. then extract of number of applications received in each program. Already you have only one program here, BAMS. So already, as I suggested just before, likewise you can mention with some sort of segregation. But mind it well, all these details have to be properly certified. Once you say all these things, it is to be certified by the controller of examinations or registrar of evaluation, clearly mentioning the programs that are not covered under CET. But yours is covered under CET. So you need not bother much about it. Only your concern is to provide some data about your 9. What is your mechanism for admitting 9 students coming under management quota seats? The rest 51 are directly admitted by the convener. You simply blindly accept them. Can you question? If I get allocation later and come to you, please give me admission. Will you question? No. Whatever requirements are there, if I fulfill 5,000-10,000 rupees, some fees, so and so on, if I pay, everything will go on smoothly. So here, these are the things that we need to understand. Now you just go to the next one, that is 2.1.3. Average percentage of students enrolled demonstrates a national spread and includes students from other states. Now you see here, generally when the CET is conducted, hardly 1% or 2% seats are allotted for other state students. Am I right? If I am wrong, please correct it. Hardly 2% seats. So out of these 2% overall in the whole counseling system of the state, I think hardly one student, sometimes not a single student you will get from the other state. But there is a possibility when you conduct your counseling for your management quota. So there is a possibility that you get students from neighborhood states as well. But whatever it may be, finally, what you are expected to project is, we have 60 intake, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever number it may be, that these are the students coming from XYZ state. Right? Got the point? If you want to secure 5 marks here, if you say all 60 are only from only from Maharashtra, will it happen ever? I am damn sure like you get couple of students from Karnataka. A couple may come from Telangana or neighborhood state, and they do come, right? So if at all it is there, you will be able to project that our institution maintains the standard and provides educational facility not to the students of the native state, but we are open for outsiders also. So this sort of thing we need to express, and that's why it is said like demonstrates a national spread and includes students from other states. So they have given 5 marks for it. But recently I came to know that since a number of IQAC coordinators objected this point. Suppose my college is located in the heart of the state, like Nasik, whereas I am not at all in the neighborhood of any other state. Do you think that outside or out of state students will intentionally come to my institutions only? It may happen, it may not, right? Especially non-traditional courses, traditional courses. For technical and medical and technical courses, no issue. Everybody is ready to move anywhere in the world. So this was objected. I heard, I am not sure right now whether it is removed or not. If at all it is going to be removed, then these 5 points should be compensated somewhere else. But as if now, as I just downloaded it a couple of days back from the NAC office website, so these are the things still representing this. Okay? So just be cautious about it, and this will be the structure of your template, like year of enrollment. Of course, current year you can mention 21-22. Then number of students enrolled from other states. It may be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Presently any student is there from other country, other state? Only one. So simply you can mention only one, no issue. Then the number of students enrolled from other countries. I think it hardly happens. Okay. It may happen in the case of some other courses. Maybe in the big cities only, right? So if at all there is any, you can mention. And parallelly, mind it well, link to the relevant document is to be provided. Of what kind of document? Then again you see here, list of students, already we talked just before in the previous slide. Same list, no change at all, because that list itself will display, okay, whether any foreign student or out of state student is there. Same list you can, if at all it is mentioning state wise, you can use the same list. Otherwise you can do one thing, separately, suppose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are admitted from other states or countries, prepare a separate list, get it certified by the head of the institution, put it on your website also, and then provide the link of the document. So one thing I would like to tell you well in advance, your website is going to be the most crucial factor in the process of accreditation, because 70% of assessment will be done by the NAAC assessor online and only 30% will be done offline. Now you can imagine what is the importance of your website maintenance. Who is the in charge of the website maintenance? I don't know. You are looking after all these things. Okay, whole and soul. Keep it up. The point is, IQAC should be supported by one more person who will look after the proper updation and upgradation of the website, because already he is having a very hectic job right there at the IQAC office, and if at all this additional job is there, then he may not be able to justify any of them. Some compromise will automatically take place. So one person should be there to assist only for website updation and upgradation. So this is my friendly suggestion. Yeah, in fact, I cannot interfere with your system here. So as a matter of fact, this way you can go. And here you see, when you say like one student is there from other state, you have to provide a certificate. You cannot simply say yes, one from other state. You have to provide full details, passport of the student or domicile of the student, okay, or else nowadays we are asking for your Aadhaar card details, okay. So these are the things that you need to provide. And similarly, previous degrees, whether the student is genuinely coming from other state or simply you are saying so, because his previous studies certificates will reveal whether the person is from Telangana or Karnataka or any other state of this country. So especially matriculation and HSC documents will reveal that. And similarly, you have to provide the e-copies of the admission letters issued to the student in order to get the seat or a confirmed seat in our institution. And likewise, the institutional data can also be provided as per the provided template. So this is the template, right, as provided by NAAC. If you develop the data in this one, statistical data or quantitative data can be filled up. But similarly, you have to provide certain support in terms of the documents as well. Now we go to the next one, right? So here you see, if at all you get any doubt in between, please feel free to ask right then and there itself. Don't wait that I'll complete my presentation, then we will have a doubt clarification. Don't wait for that, because again we have to go back to the same slide in order to discuss it. Okay. So if at all you get any doubt, simply raise your hand and say like you have a doubt here. Now you come down to the second indicator. This is the indicator number 2.2. Okay, 2.2, catering to the student diversity. See the allocation here, 25 marks are there, and it's a considerable number. So 2.2.1, so within that you have a couple of sections. So it is expected from the institution to assess, or the institution assesses the learning levels of the student. Of course, after admission, and organizes special programs for advanced learners and slow learners. Now, what kind of mechanism do we have? How many of us really think about it? And what kind of job are we doing in order to assess whether a student is an advanced learner or a slow learner? Actually, what is expected, not for the program, but for every course. Suppose BAMS is a program, but within that you have got many subjects, right? XYZ subjects. So these are the courses. Only one program, BAMS is a program, BA is a program. But within that, English compulsory, SL, Marathi, Hindi, or optional 1, 2, 3, these are the courses. So likewise, you have a program called BAMS. Within that, you have your own departments or subjects that you study called courses. Here, what you are expected to do? You are expected to conduct a test right in the beginning of your academic year. What is the purpose behind that? See that you ask a few simple questions. Ensure that you ask a few moderate level questions, moderate difficulty level questions, and just ensure that you ask a few difficult questions, because your purpose is to identify who are the slow learners, who are the moderate learned students, like they are neither slow nor very advanced, and those who are really prepared at a higher level with a much better competence of their own. So this kind of test that addresses all these three categories, a questionnaire of 100 questions you can prepare, maybe MCQ or maybe some sort of written test you can conduct, and once you throw this one among all, let them write, all 60 will address the question paper, and you will have a very seminal authentic data with you of all the students, whatever their score is. Now, depending on the score, suppose you conducted for 100 marks, those who scored less than 40 segregate into one category. Whether they failed or passed, don't bother about it. Those who scored below 40, it means they failed, right? Second, 40 to 70, let it be one slab, and then beyond that. So simply categorize them, put into them list. Slow learners, below 40, all are slow learners. You have to focus more on these students in order to upgrade their standard of education. Then in between, second category, moderate level we will consider. They are neither advanced nor slow. And finally, you have the bright students, those who are scoring above 70, you can treat them as bright students. Your strategy of teaching and developing them should be different, because they are the students having lot of potential in order to get name and fame to your institute, because they may be standing there in the university list as far as merits are concerned. So you can have that kind of approach and prepare your first document right in the beginning of the academic year. As soon as they are admitted, your class is streamlined. Within the first month you conduct the test. Don't delay. Okay, don't allow them to really get adjusted with everything here. They are new to your institution, they are new to the environment, they are the freshers coming from the intermediate colleges, they don't know anything about the higher education. So this is the right testing time to decide their competence level, whether you are going to categorize them into slow learners or the advanced learners. And make the list and keep that page available for another 4 years. Once you come to the 4th year, last semester, before the commencement of exam, last semester I am saying, 8th semester, before the commencement of exam, conduct one more test, not of the same kind, but really testing their capacity of all these 4 years of education that they got from your institution, and again have the same approach. Okay, 33% questions for slow learners, 33% questions for average students, and 33 point some questions for advanced students. So if you prepare your question paper based on this structure, again you will get a data. You are not going to identify who are the slow learners now. What exactly you are going to do? Your sheet that you maintained in the first year, now you got the comparative study done after 4 years, put these papers together, and then you see whether you have converted your slow learners into moderate students or average students, and average to the advanced learners, and advanced to much higher level. If that growth has taken place, then you are successful on this front, and finally you can say that my job as an institution, my job as a teacher, my job as the head of the department is really done. See, because I am talking in terms of outcomes also. When it is required for your student progression kind of thing, this document will be the most important document in order to prove that this is the effort that my institution has taken up. When he came, it was his level. Now when he is leaving my institution, this is his level, and this growth is nothing but the contribution of the institution. So this way you need to think about it, and then again you see, follow measurable criteria to identify slow learners. I discussed all these things all together at this point of time. Then measurable criteria to identify advanced learners. Similarly, organize special programs for slow learners. You can conduct remedial classes for slow learners. You need not really invite the very bright students there, because they are already prepared, well prepared, having a focused approach of learning. But here, when you identify the slow learners, organize the classes and maintain a proper data of remedial classes. Not on a piece of paper. We conducted 50 remedial classes for slow learners. That will not be accepted at all. They will ask you, who was the teacher, what was the time, where is the attendance of the students with signatures. Not like we maintain AA, BB, absent, present, not like that. They want a very authentic data in this respect, because the assessor will cross-verify, not with all, it's a litmus test. Simply they will ask, identify one or two, whether remedial classes are conducted in your college. They don't ask directly. They will ask, how many of you are benefited with remedial classes? If they ask this way, nobody raises the hand, and then what happens? We are revealed. So this way we need to be very cautious that whatever that we are going to mention on a piece of paper as a very authentic document, that is going to be provided with evidences on a piece of paper again, but it should also be informed to the students. If at all, you are not really conducting remedial classes, at least make your 5 to 10 students ready that they should be proclaiming, yes, I attended. Otherwise, the things will go on a wrong direction. But I don't suggest you to go for any kind of, malpractices, manipulations, and fabrication, and blah and blah, so and so. Don't do that. At least I am of the opinion. I never fabricated not a single document in my career till date. Whether I am getting the credits or debits, no issue. Whether my college is getting 1 point less in one particular point or not. And nobody has really bothered about it. They gave me free hand. Said, whatever you do, it is going to be final. That's all. Okay, don't fabricate at all. My humble, friendly suggestion to you all. Because sometimes, authorities, they want so many things and they did nothing. Then when they did nothing, so you face the problem to justify, especially for this kind of thing, that we did nothing. So this nothing will get converted into different numbers later. Then follows the protocol to measure student achievement. Already I talked about it. Like we need to provide each and every detail in a very systematic manner. Then only we'll be able to justify this. Then what are the data that you are expected to upload? These uploads are to be taken up very carefully. Uploads not only in terms of uploading to the net. Mind it well, so much of data should also be available on your website. Because at multiple number of places, they will ask you your link. Provide the link, provide the link, provide the link. So it means you are also providing the data in the AQUAR, Annual Quality Report. Okay. Similarly, you need to put it on your website as well. The other day you happened to visit my institution, and whatever files that you have seen, now you go to my institutional website. Same file will be available there. Okay. It is already uploaded. The moment certain criteria is completed, duly signed by the principal, now this is the final statement. It is uploaded to the institutional website. Whenever, however, the NAAC authorities want, they can cross-verify, or else other colleges like you, those who are into the process and want some sort of information, what to do, how to do, and so on. This can be helpful to them. So you are bringing all these things into public domain. So this is very crucial here. Already I said, like details of the special program, as I said, remedial classes or extra classes or competency enhancement program or skill development program, whatever that you want to conduct. It depends on the requirement of your students. See, what I suggest need not to be followed. What is the requirement of your batch? That is to be done. If you identify that the students' English is weak, what can you do? 1 month refresher course you can organize for them. You can provide a specialist in English so that their standard of English will be elevated. That's all. You put it on record that we found our students or this batch, like 10-15 students are there, very weak in English. What to do then? Skill development program you are going to organize. Okay. If at all you come to know that students, biological terms and words, vocabulary, or your medical science vocabulary is very weak, what can you do? 3 days program, 1 week program you can launch. Simply see that how do you increase their medical science vocabulary. See, these are the very simple, meager, small things that we can successfully do. But unfortunately, we don't have that kind of very positive approach to address this kind of query, and then we just do in the quantitative point of view, and finally nothing is the outcome. So if at all we are very particular about these 10 marks, then ensure that these are the things that you do as per your requirement of the batch. Now you go to this one, 2-1. The institution assesses the learning levels of the students after admission, special programs for slow learners and advanced learners. This is the template. Already I told, one slide information, another slide as suggested by NAAC, your template will be there. So measurable criteria followed to recognize slow learners. Already I told right in my introduction how to identify your slow learners. चेहरा देखकर तो आप डिसाइड नहीं करोगे ना कि he is an advanced learner or a slow learner. You have to conduct a test and see that while conducting your first test, it should not be to your level or our level. It should be to the level of the student. He completed intermediate. So you can have the intermediate standard of your test. You cannot conduct the degree level test or a PG level test. So please be sure about it. Okay, your approach while conducting the first test should be this. But your approach while conducting your final test for final year students, what that will be? That is undergraduate level test. See, this is intermediate level test. That is undergraduate level test because you want to prove this was the quality of my student when I got it in the admission. Now I produced it in the course of 4 years. This is the quality of my student. So this way you have to prove later at a student progression as well. And here you have measurable criteria for followed to identify the advanced learners. Already you can say the same thing that we conducted a test in order to identify the quality of the student. Similarly, the special programs created for slow learners or advanced learners based on the identified areas or criteria, and then the template. Protocols to measure achievements. How did you found out like whether my student is really upgraded or not? You identified that XYZ is slow, ABC is advanced. You have identified. But what is the protocol for that? So that protocol, that achievement level, you can identify not just in the span of 1 semester, but it will take its own course of time because the learner is going to be with you for 4 years altogether. And it's not a short span of time. It's a considerable span of time, and you can do so many experiments with the learners to upgrade their standard. So these are the things that you need to remember. And again, the uploads are there. You have what is the methodology that you adopt based on the criteria in order to assess the teaching learning standard levels of the students, what kind of special program that you provided in the institution, the details of outcomes. As I said, like after 4 years only you can say, or else you can do one thing. Year to year you can evaluate. If you want to put in more efforts, what can you do? First year students, first year teachers are there. When the student came to my class, this is the level. Now I am going to approach for the final end exam of the semester, second semester. Okay. Before that you can conduct one more test, then cross compare. Like this is the condition when he came. This is the condition when I am leaving him to the next class, that is second year. I think this will be more practical, but it will elaborate your work. It will elaborate the work of every teacher. So that way if at all do, That will be welcome, no doubt about it, and you can also identify the measurable criterias over there, and you can suggest like this is how the student is upgraded in the course of 1 semester, in the course of 2 semesters. But data generation, supporting document, evidence of conducting events and programs, and something that you do for the betterment of the student, that has to be properly authenticated not only by the head of the institution but by the person who is doing the job at the ground level. Otherwise, you will send a big bundle for the principal to sign. Then is he going through each and every document in detail? No, because head of the department or the concerned teacher will take care of it, and he or she will take care of all these things as expected over there. So please develop the data in this particular context and provide the consolidated reports also. Suppose you conducted skill development program, one report. Okay, you conducted some activity based, some sort of, remedial classes for them, a report. Whatever that you conduct for them, please develop a report, provide the authentic information, be very calculated, because just to say in vague will not work. Don't say we conducted 20 classes for slow learners as far as remedial classes are concerned. Okay, you said, but if you say we invited some 3 faculties from outside, who are the 3? Give the names, mention their affiliation, mention the dates that they came, and also provide the statistics of attendance of the students out of 10, 15, whatever slow learners you identified. First of all, you need to finalize the list of slow learners. Then their attendance as per the program. Everything is going to be well connected, and that way we are expected to develop certain thing for this particular point. Now just proceed further. Here you have 222. Student, see, just before I think I was discussing with sir, student full-time teacher ratio, and I am happy to see here that it is below 10 for your institution. It is below 10 for your institution. So altogether, Saichok Chovis, 240 students are there in your institution, and you are around 35 or 38 faculty members. So 240 divided by 40 is going to be a very good number. So that way your student teacher ratio is going to be very effective. But then again, mentor-mentee kind of thing, I hope you are already familiar too. So this will be required there also. And here you have, already I discussed about it, like year, current year you can mention, or as per requirement, your student and full-time teacher. Please don't mention your invited professors or guest professors or temporary professors or those who are just coming for one particular class or clock hour. No, it is clearly highlighted your on roll, on payroll, on roll full-time teachers. No other is going to be entertained, because your ratio will be very reflective there. Once you mention 38 full-time teachers here, total number 240 divided by 38, whatever answer is there, that is going to be your ratio. Based on that, they will find out the ratio there. Then here, number of students enrolled in the institution. Now you see here, this enrollment is to be counted altogether. It is not intake. If it is intake, 60. When I say enrolled, how many are there now? On your roll call, how many students are there? 240 students are there for 4 years. If 60 is continued, and all are going to qualify every year. So that way, then number of full-time teachers, 38. Here, web link. Web link of what? Web link of the list of students, intake, total, sorry, not intake, enrolled, total. Then teachers list also with full information. Name, qualification, specialization, anything special to his credit, his PAN number. Mind it well. In fact, we are not supposed to reveal our PAN number on our website, but I don't understand why this NAC office is asking for. We are also forced to post our details on the website. Your date of birth is reflecting, your PAN number is reflecting, your contact number is reflecting. What about our security now? Whether your money is going to be safe or not, only God knows. But anyway, here some requirements are there. Like data requirement, total number of students enrolled in the college. See here, total number of students in the college I am saying. So to be highlighted. Then total number of full-time teachers in the college. Then formula. What is the formula given? Number of students is to number of full-time teachers. So based on that you can have, or otherwise total number of students divided by your total number of teachers is equal to whatever number that you get. You can equally allot it to every faculty. That will be the ratio there. Then uploads. Uploads are highlighted with a special color. List of students enrolled or the list of full-time teachers. Then, I think university separated. It should be there in the point number 2. Institutional data in the prescribed format. This is the template provided. Okay. It is provided by NAC. If at all any other relevant information that you want to provide. Now, 2 to 3. Institution facilitates building and sustenance of innate talent, aptitude of individual students, okay, extramural activity beyond the classroom activities such as student clubs, cultural societies, so on and so on. Are we supposed to only teach in the class? I don't think so. We are expected to do much beyond the classroom also. Like involving them into different activities related to subject, related to their overall personality development. It can be anything then. Okay. If you want to increase the interest in your subject, you can have your subject clubs. As we conduct English Literary Club in our college. So at least 2 to 3 programs are conducted semester wise. Means in a year minimum 5 programs will be there. So club looks active, students become active, you get multiple number of programs on your board, that is departmental board, and as a whole department looks active. So this way, if you take a decision that every department will conduct minimum 2 programs or 2 sort of, any of these, minimum 2 in one semester. Now you see how many departments are there? 18, 20? 14 departments. So 14 into 2, 28 programs in one semester in your college. You conduct 2 semesters in an academic year. Means just now you see 28 are 2. You have around 60 plus programs, approximately 60 programs in your institution in one academic year. So if you are preparing for 5 years altogether, Sahapanchit you are going to have around 300 programs, that too only contribution, not a very big level program. Departmental college level activities, but 300 activities will be there. Imagine, can any assessor will think of reducing your marks? But the only thing is, you have to provide the data, information. Who is the organizing department? What kind of program is organized? Program sheet. Who are the people invited, if at all external? Who are the students participating in the particular program that you are conducting for their development? Okay. And then provide the full details. And if at all it is college level program, mind it well, real attendance of the students is expected. Don't expect like all 60 will be there. Not essential. If you conduct some subject related program and you get less number also, no problem, but at least should have the authentic data for that. So likewise the things will move on in this direction and describe the initiatives to facilitate innate talent. Students have inborn talent. Some are coming by force for medical science and some are coming willingly to learn medical science, and you can understand that. So when you have the face-to-face dialogue with the students, in a day or 2 you will perceive whether somebody is forced to come or somebody is willingly coming. So based on that you find out what kind of talent they do have, conduct their aptitude test, check out what kind of personal development that they have, and check whether you can provide from your end something additional extra beyond the classroom activity. Anyway, we do teach, they do learn, and those who are willing to learn, they will learn. Otherwise they leave it simply, by the, physically they are sitting, mentally they are totally absent. It also happened multiple number of times. Let it happen. But once you conduct the out of the class activities, I can assure you, their involvement will automatically increase, and that is experimental. Then you are expected to do some, uploads and web links also. Appropriate documentary evidence. Web link means it should be uploaded to your website, and any other relevant information as needed. Similarly, you have the uploads there, the list of enrolled students, okay, in the preceding academic year, whatever, because we do provide ACCR only after the completion of the academic year. That's why it is called preceding academic year, because we are providing data for suppose 2021. So, okay, 2021. So, preceding year. Present current year is 21, 22. So, next year we will submit the data. That's why it is called preceding year. Then your list of full-time teachers and what kind of qualification, designation, so on and so on that they have. Institutional data in the prescribed format. Please go to the next slide, and then you will come across another indicator. This indicator is 2.3, teaching learning. Mind it well, 45 marks are allocated for this. It is one of the considerable allotments, I would say. And if at all you are very focused and student learning, teaching learning is going on, you can secure good marks here. Student centric methods are used for enhancing learning. If you read this list, experiential learning, integrated interdisciplinary learning, okay, participatory learning, already you said about it, problem solving methodologies, okay, then self-directed learning, just before you explained one example there, patient centric and evidence based learning, okay, when you take them to the laboratory because you try to prove it, evidence based, when you suggest them one theory and now you ask them to put into practical. So whatever concept you taught, that concept based on one particular format and formula, if you do the same, the results will be accordingly, right? Then you have learning in the humanities. It may not be applicable to you. Project based learning, already you pointed out. Role plays, may required, may not, but response to be provided within, okay, that is to be written by the coordinator. But here the thing is, we are already using different types of methodologies. Generally we go for direct teaching method, whatever subject that we have, and the medium of instruction is English, right? So we use English for communication, that is the medium of instruction. So that becomes a direct teaching, traditional blackboard teaching method, okay. Beyond that, we are also putting them into experiments, experiential learning. We are also taking them outside the classroom. Maybe your botanical garden is there, or else your herbs and plants are there, or else you take them to some, other place. Some like Hyderabad, you have a very big botanical garden at Lingampalli, exclusively designed. More than 7,000 different varieties of, herbs and plants are available there. So likewise, when you do it, that is of course beyond the class, but related to directly your subject kind of thing. So these are the, student centric methods that we are using, because ultimately our purpose is nothing but to teach, but the teaching should happen student centric. Unfortunately, what is there in the traditional kind of teaching method, that is teacher oriented teaching. But when you go for student actively involved in the process of teaching, that becomes the student centric method of teaching. How's that? In between asking questions, or as you induct your students to get into our side and teach your other fellow students. So that is like involving students in the process of teaching learning. When you sit there and I am this side, my attitude is different. When I sit there and you come to this side, again my attitude and your attitude is different. So this kind of thing, you are providing them with a lot of experience. So these are the things that we do, but we need to put it on a piece of paper in a proper order. So these are just the examples, not essential like you should address everything. If role play is not applicable, remove it. Okay, well, you know what is that? Learning in humanities not needed, remove it. Okay, or else anything that is applicable, or else it is not enlisted but that is required, you can add on. If you are adopting any other specific method or technique of teaching, that can be added here. But again, you see, information is to be provided. This is a qualitative measurement. You need to provide a kind of essay of 500 words to be written very legibly and logically, and that should be in the proper communicative English. not the very descriptive literary kind of English. Literary English is not expected at all. Okay, communicative approach, to the point, exact information, that's all. But around 500 words are expected there. Again, you need to put it on a your website, that is your portal, like learning environment facilities with geo-tagged, of course, photographs and so on, and any other relevant information that you provide. You have 10 marks for this particular subsection. Now, one more 10 marks are there. Institution facilitates the use of clinical skills laboratory, just before you said, right? Clinical skill laboratory and simulation based learning. Simulation kind of thing is not yet available in the places like Latur, Udgir. Okay, it is recently introduced only in the metropolitan cities like Mumbai, Hyderabad, Pune, so on and so on. From us, it will take some time for us to get it. But you have like clinical skills laboratories. Already you are doing it. Without a practical, you don't teach any subject at all. And there is no meaning in teaching subject without a practical. So this sort of thing is there. So you have, the institution has a basic clinical skills and the infrastructure required for that. Simulation training models. Okay. If at all you are provided with this, then trainers for skill development. See, somebody may be very good at theory, but may not be that good at practicals. But whosoever is good at practicals, let it be there. Then if somebody is very effective in speaking, let it be in the class, because effective language, effective style, effective body language can make your presentation more and more interesting. So that way you can segregate your staff. Then you are expected to provide the advanced simulators. Again, already I said like these things are far away for us. Then have structured programs. Already our programs are structured by the university. Already I said like we are the affiliating institutions, affiliated to one particular university. So you come under which university? Okay, right, great. Only one health university is there and you are affiliated to. So they design your program, they design the course curriculum, they design the outcome, okay. Everything they design, we are expected to blindly follow, whether you like it or not. There are so many components that we don't like. We feel like it is outdated, remove it. Okay, but still it is there and we are forced to teach it. So ultimately we are forced to do it and accordingly we are expected to follow. But if at all you could really provide certain training programs for your learners, either you being the trainer or else you can invite outsider for that also, so that you will be able to improvise their clinical standard or clinical skill standard. It can be anything as related to your subject. So again, uploads are there. You can just read out the huge list and you are expected to provide everything geo-tagged, mind it well. Every photograph. Suppose today you say we conducted a seminar on criterion 2. Your photograph in general taken as if I took or you took is west. It should have the geo-tagging there at the bottom, and that kind of document will be the authentic document in the views of your NAAC authorities. Now you hear this one, that is a template provided, has provision of the use of the clinical skills laboratory and simulation based learning, 5 marks. Basic clinical skill training models. It is already provided in your syllabus book. Okay. Then advanced patient simulators for simulation based training. Please, you just find out whether any possibilities are there that you can create this sort of facility in your college. If not now, maybe in the course of time, by the time you approach for NAAC for the 5th year ACCR, and then the committee is going to, assess your institution for the purpose. The structured program conducted for the training and assessment of students. This you can do. You can organize a program for that. Already you are doing it, but there is no harm in conducting one program dedicated for that. As soon as the new batch comes, conduct a program for them. One year this department, another year another department. Likewise, you can change the responsibility as assigned to the department, and accordingly you can do, so that everybody will be active. Then training programs conducted for faculty on the use of the clinical skills laboratory. Do you think it is required for the staff? Yes or no? It is required. Because how far we are updated, that can be checked out. That can be checked out. So likewise, this template you can follow. Then you have 2, 3, 3. 10 marks are dedicated for this. Just before I asked, how many of us are using ICT based teaching learning. What is ICT? Information and Communication Technology. How far you are using technology, how far you are inducting technological tools in the process of your teaching, and how to use it. I think, as we are using for our traditional courses and humanities courses and especially English as a subject, when I teach a drama, suppose I teach William Shakespearean, any of the dramas or any of the greatest tragedies, I don't only teach them in the class, I take them to my department. Okay, we are provided with a computer system, audio system and so on and so on. Then we just put it on the screen, the actual play as enacted there in the Globe Theatre of London. Recorded dramas are there. YouTube access is there. Simply you search Macbeth. Number of videos will come that of Macbeth. So you show them. Okay. So that way, how do you induct information and communication enabled teaching learning? All these tools can be effectively used. You can do one thing, sir. Mandatorily insist every teacher to conduct minimum one class per week for every subject that he teaches, he or she. Means what will happen, suppose I go to first year, second year, third year, fourth year. Means 4 classes I have on an average. Okay, 4 classes I have. So in a week, in one particular class, I have to teach at least one projector based teaching. Second, not only projector based teaching, you can also create your own ICT effective tool with the help of your smartphone. Okay, creating WhatsApp groups is also called ICT based teaching learning process, because you use social media for communication. What can you do? Whatever that you taught today, suppose you taught X subject. I am not much familiar with the medical subjects and all that, so I may not be able to give examples. But suppose you teach one particular subject related to your herbal plants. Okay, what are the properties of the herbal plants you taught today? What can you do? Already on YouTube, thousands of videos are there, but you identify properly structured video on the same topic that you taught, circulate among your students. Whatever you taught in the class, you may not be able to show, but when you watch the video, everything is there. Okay, suppose I am teaching Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam in my class, I am talking about the missile technology development, or I am talking about DRDL. I am talking about his being president of India. I am talking about his death moment when he was delivering a lecture in Northeast, and he collapsed and he was no more. Can I show it in the class? Do I have highly elaborate, technologically oriented classrooms? No. But if you go to my YouTube channel, I circulated a link with sir. Please circulate with others also. More than 200 topics of my subject related to English, compulsory and optional. More than 200 video lectures I developed in the course of lockdown and posted it on my YouTube channel. And not of my students really, many students of this university domain got benefited. So you can also do that if at all you have a lot of patience and a lot of interest in doing this kind of thing. So that is my contribution in order to develop my topics, ICT based, mind it well. Okay, so this way also you can do. It means you are using social media, you are using ICT tools like YouTube, you are using your PowerPoint presentation, projector based teaching learning. If at all you have a screen, EPBAX kind of thing, that also you can use it effectively. Beyond that, what you can do is, you can insist your students to do some Swayam courses. Swayam, Government of India has launched it, and ma'am has told while introducing. My nearly 15 video lectures are telecasted on national TV, on your Swayam TV, MHRD Swayam #1 channel is there. On that channel, on a regular basis, rotation basis, you will find me there on the screen delivering different subjects related to American literature, Indian literature, English language, communication, phonology, means the science of pronunciation, so on and so on. So that is all possible because we were the part of that MHRD project. It was a multi-crore project. So the point is, we can do wonders. It is depending on a teacher. If you find some time, already I circulated my full profile. Huge list is provided there. All the contributions that I made in the course of 24 years. My point is not to self-glorify myself. My point is to let you know what a teacher can really do. Don't treat me as a model, but what I personally feel like in all arenas of teaching learning, except much of my publications like book publications are less, but in rest of the other domains, I have definitely provided a lot of contributions over there. So my point is to say, like, a teacher can do wonders if at all he is having that workaholic attitude. So unless you have that commitment and workaholic attitude, these things also won't come. Beyond that, I'll give you one simple method. How to use ICT enabled tools effectively. You can do one thing. Everybody has smartphone. Simply, already you are the account holder of a Gmail account. Without your Gmail account or Google account, your Android phone won't work. Okay? So if you go to computer, you will find 9 buttons there in one corner of your screen. Okay? If you click, it will open number of options like Gmail, Google Search, Google Photos, Google Classroom, Google Forms, and Google so on, so on, so on. So many options are provided. Simply give one click to your Google Classroom. Can't you establish your own classroom? Got my point? If you want to get marks for this and say very, strongly that yes, we do it. If you open my mobile, you will find minimum 4 to 5 classes which are actively working for this purpose. So you can give video presentations from your Google Classroom. You can circulate study material through your Google Classroom. You can conduct tests through your classroom. You can develop as rubrics of your students' performance in your Google Classroom without using much of your brain. Simple attitude, simple approach. Don't circulate documents. Okay, student, take it away, get it xeroxed and then study. No. Circulate digitally. Automatically data generation will take place. Authentic, information will be automatically available there. You can say, I am using Google Classroom for ICT enabled tools and effective teaching learning process. Apart from my traditional teaching in the class. Or else if you want my favorite, you go for, just note it down, you go for Teachmint app. What is the app? Anybody heard about it? Teach, T-E-S-C-H, Teach, M-I-N-T, Mint. It's a free of cost app, my dear friends. So you will find it very, very useful. Very useful. Inbuilt video presentation, inbuilt attendance, inbuilt YouTube link, inbuilt notice board, inbuilt everything. But unfortunately, how many of us are aware of it? How many of us are using it? So that is always a question, and we need to answer that question, being the teachers' fraternity. So these are the things that you can really do. And mind it well, coordinator is expected to write 500 words essay. I am saying essay, informative essay, not the descriptive essay. Okay, about it, like how your college functions. What is the role of your teachers as far as ICT based teaching learning is concerned? And whatever that you do or whatever your faculties are doing, please do mention that in a very effective manner. 234, student mentor ratio preceding academic year, again 10 marks. Formula is provided over there. Total number of mentors in the preceding academic year, total number of students in the preceding academic year, total number of mentors, so on and so on. Just have a quick glance on the uploads as required there. Already we discussed earlier as well. Okay, we discussed earlier as well. Number of mentors. But here, do you think that only, suppose 7 students are coming per head, for example. 38 faculties are there. Okay. And you get 5 to 6 students or 10 students per head, for example. Forget about those who are bearing the positions in the system. Forget about them. But the remaining 30 are getting the important allocation of 10 students per head. Then do you think that only the allotment of students is sufficient? Suppose I mention the list of 10 students, Dr. So and so. Is it sufficient? Mentor-mentee details? No. You are expected to furnish full details over there. Who are the students allotted for one particular teacher? So here you are expected to provide full details. And what is the role of a mentor, that is to be also counted. What kind of things that you have done? How did you counsel your students? 10 are there under you. What is their role in return after your counseling? Whether they have improved in the expected areas that you counseled for them. Everything should come on record. The blunder that we do is, we simply write down teacher number 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 students, finish. Teacher number 2, another 10. That is not the way. If at all you say these 10 are allocated to you, you are responsible for the overall academic and personality growth of the 10 students. Whether they regularly come to the college or not, how's their performance in the all subjects, what is their contribution to the institution, how's their personality development, then whether they appear for the all examinations, internal, external, properly, regularly or not, how's their performance, if at all they are weaker, getting in touch with them, getting in touch with the parents, maintaining the records of contacting the parents and the students. Now coming down to 2, 3, 5. Teaching learning process of the institution nurtures creativity, analytical skills and innovation among students. Already I said in the beginning, just teaching is sufficient? No. Teaching is not sufficient. How do you really make them a proficient learner? A learner by all means, a versatile personality. As we talk in terms of cricket, at least we should have a couple of all-rounders who can bowl well, who can bat well. If needed, he can, field well, or else he can be behind the stumps as a keeper well. So in almost all arenas of cricket, he should be good at. So likewise, our job is to not to create just the candidate for the examination. What is unfortunately happening, we are not, creating our students or making our students as the real disciples for education. Unfortunately, we are creating candidates for the examinations. Is there any difference between the candidate for exam and a student or a seeker of knowledge? Is there any difference, essential difference? There is a lot of difference. When you say I am the seeker of knowledge, it means I have the holistic point of view to understand academics, not only gaining marks, but much beyond that. And when I say I am the candidate for the examination, it means I am very, very, limited in my perspective, and I have just understood one thing. This is the subject. Tomorrow is the exam. This is the structure. This is the pattern. And I prepare in order to get good marks, not in order to get learn. Okay, learning is different and scoring is different. So you will find so many students genuinely original, but unfortunately scoring somewhere in the middle, not very high. But there are some students, ratta maar ke pad lete, dusre din exam dete, they score high, and they are sometimes, in the toppers list, but actually that X person deserves not the Z. It happens. We might have seen some kind of students of this type. So here the point is, how do you teach in the class? Do you think that the students will, inculcate analytical habits on their own? Or else students will inculcate innovative approach of their own? No. It is possible only when either the parent is going to mentor them or the teacher is going to mentor them. That's why I said, only to communicate from the text. Suppose I am the teacher of English and I do teach English prose, poetry, literature, drama, blah, blah, blah. And I am simply translating in the class. Reading a paragraph, translate. Reading a paragraph, translate. I don't know what the teachers have taught you for English while learning. Whether this is the way of teaching, that is the rubbish way of teaching them. The question is, when you deal with one particular paragraph, you should be able to reveal that the students cannot see in the paragraph. You should be able to break the horizon, go beyond the horizon. Students can see the horizon, but students cannot go beyond the horizon. It is the role of a teacher to take your students beyond the horizon, what the students could not actually see. That is the way that you can really nurture creativity among the students. Creativity doesn't mean only to be a poet or a writer, or only to be a painter or a sculptor, not like that. Creativity is also there in our day-to-day life. The way I think, probably you may not think, or the way that you think, I may not be able to do. So my creativity is different, your creativity is different, same topic, same presentation, same slides. If you come up here, you may do much better than me, whereas I may not be able to do it to my level. So my approach is different, your approach is different, my style is different, your style is different, your creativity is different, my creativity. So everybody is different by all means, and here you have to inculcate these things among your learners. So if you think what is there in the book, students will simply rectify the things and appear for the exam. But if you really analyze beyond that, then what is expected from a teacher? This is expected at higher level. Once you say we are the part and parcel of the higher education system provided by UGC in this country, or anything, maybe your medical authority is different, right? Okay, MCI kind of thing. So you will say that I do teach beyond the levels of intermediate. Unless you come to the university level, how can you really make all these things possible to your students? So this is also to be counted on your part, and you are providing 500 words essay kind of thing, informative information there, and then provide appropriate documentary evidence for everything that you say in terms of nurturing creativity, in terms of nurturing analytical skills, in terms of nurturing innovation among your students.